Have you ever wondered how an AI can look at a picture of your dog and somehow magically repaint it in the style of Van Gogh? It really does feel like magic. But what's happening under the hood is this fascinating process of separating the what from the how. And today, we're going to get right into it. How AI actually learns, understands, and even starts blending artistic styles.
So, to get to the bottom of that, we have to ask a more fundamental question. What does an AI even see when it looks at an image? Anything at all? And to figure that out, we're not going to start with some famous painting. Nope. We're going to start with something way simpler. A really bad drawing.
Okay, so let's bring this down to earth with a real-world scenario. Imagine you're a designer. You've got this killer idea in your head, but your sketching skills, well, let's just say they're not the best. So can you just doodle something, hand it off to an AI, and have it spit out something that looks professional? Well, a study that just came out this year in the Design Society Journal decided to find out. They got a bunch of product design students, had them sketch out ideas for a medical device, and then fed those sketches into an AI tool called Viscom to generate these really polished renders. The hope, right, was that the AI could basically be a translator for people with weaker drawing skills. But here's the catch. This is what they found. The study basically concluded that the AI didn't magically fix bad drawings. Not at all. In fact, it was pretty much the opposite. The quality of what the AI produced was directly, and I mean directly, tied to the quality of the sketch a human put in.
So, the takeaway here is crucial. The AI acts like an amplifier, not a replacement for skill. If you fed it a good sketch with clear lines and solid proportions, you got a good AI render. But if you fed it a bad sketch, you got a bad render. Garbage in, garbage out, right? And this tells us something really important. For an AI to even think about style, it first needs a solid grasp on the content. Which, of course, brings us to our next big question.
How in the world do you teach a machine to separate the subject of an image, the what, from the style it's drawn in, the how? I mean, that's the million-dollar question, and the answer comes from a technique that is now totally fundamental to all creative AI.
It's called Neural Style Transfer, or NST. The first big paper on it dropped back in 2015 by Gaddies and his team. And the core idea? It's just brilliantly simple. You give the algorithm two images. One image provides the content, and the other one provides the style. So here's the breakdown. The AI first looks at the content image to figure out the shapes and objects, the what. Then it analyzes the style image, looking at all the textures, colors, and patterns, the how. The AI's whole goal is this delicate balancing act. It's trying to make a new image that keeps the content of the first image while adopting the style of the second. It wants to minimize what it calls loss on both ends, and the result is this perfect fusion. But this uncovers a much, much deeper problem.
See, in the real world, style and content are never actually separate. A painter's brushstrokes aren't just texture. They also help define the shape of whatever they're painting. They're all tangled up. So how do you get a pure sample of just the style?
This is what researchers call the entanglement problem. Style and content are just completely woven together. It's a huge challenge, and a recent paper called Style Decoupler decided to tackle it head-on.
Just take a look at this image. What do you see? Well, you see a corgi, obviously. That's the content. But you also see these impressionistic brushstrokes, a specific color palette. That's the style. For an AI, those two things are completely fused. So how do you pull them apart?
Okay, now this is where things get really clever. The researchers came up with this brilliant solution because they realized different types of AI models see the world differently. A multimodal AI like Clip, meaning it learns from both images and text, can see both the content, corgi, and the style, painting. But a unimodal AI like Dino V2, which is only trained on images, learns to ignore all the artistic fluff and focus only on identifying the core object. It basically trains itself to be blind to style. And that blindness, that's the whole trick. The style decoupler method uses that content-only view from the unimodal AI as a kind of answer key. It says, okay, this right here is what the pure content looks like. Then it just mathematically subtracts that content signal from what the other, smarter AI sees. And whatever is left over, that's a much purer, isolated signal for just the artistic style. It's an incredibly elegant solution. So, once you can isolate a style, what's the next logical step? Well, you start blending them, of course. But it's not as simple as mixing two buckets of paint. If you just average two styles together, you usually end up with a muddy, incoherent mess. And this slide just illustrates the problem perfectly. Take this space rocket.
On the left, the researchers used a simple linear blend to mix 3 styles together. The result? It's distorted, it's got all these weird artifacts, it's just not great. But on the right, they used a different technique called slurp, and that result is seamless. It's totally coherent. So why? What's the difference?
Well, it's because an AI's understanding of different styles isn't a flat map. It's more like a high-dimensional sphere. Think of it like the surface of the globe. A linear blend, that's the red line, tries to take a shortcut by burrowing straight through the center of the Earth. That path goes through empty, undefined space, and that's what creates all those weird visual artifacts. But SLURP, which stands for spherical linear interpolation, is way smarter. It travels along the curved surface, the green path, always staying in the zones of meaningful style.
So, where does all of this lead? I mean, we've gone from bad sketches to isolating pure style to blending those styles geometrically. The endgame here is a massive, fundamental shift in how entire creative industries like high fashion are starting to work.
Welcome to the Latent Space Atelier. Now, latent space is just the fancy, technical term for the AI's internal map of ideas. And as an article from Noir Star Models explains, high-end fashion houses are moving way beyond just training AI on photos of their finished clothes. They're now training models on the entire design process itself.
They are feeding the AI the brand's unique design DNA. We're talking about the actual blueprints of their patterns, the specific rules for how a certain fabric is supposed to drape, the logic of where a seam can and cannot go, even the entire historical archive of the fashion house. The AI isn't just learning a look, it's learning the fundamental principles of how to build the clothes.
And this completely changes the role of the human designer. They're not just typing text prompts anymore and hoping for the best. Now, they can actually sculpt in the latent space. They can get their hands dirty and manipulate the AI's understanding in real time, asking it to, say, apply the draping logic from a 1994 collection to a brand new material. The AI becomes a true co-pilot that understands the brand's very soul.
This quote just sums it up perfectly. It's a true centaur model, part human, part machine. You're combining the incredible speed and raw power of the AI with the taste, the intuition, and the direction of a master designer. It's not about replacing the human hand, it's about digitizing it. But this all leads us to one final, absolutely critical question. A great designer is defined by their ability to break their own rules, right? To innovate, to surprise. So if an AI is trained exclusively on the historical archives and all the established rules of a brand, is it just doomed to repeat the past forever? Or can it learn not just the rules, but the logic of how to break them? That right there remains the biggest challenge and the greatest opportunity for creative AI.